Hi everybody, thank you for being here today. And I'm Elena. I'm part of the Global Leadership Network student organization, and we partner with HIS International to organize these lunches, which I found very important because we learn a lot from people who are very successful in the field, and this will help us also to improve our leadership skills and our approach to the real life and for our future and our career. So I would like to introduce Pat Cannon, who is the president of HIS International, and enjoy your meal.
Hey everybody. When I go out to look for speakers, so you can suggest topics and speakers to me, I look for people that are going to help your careers, okay? So it's deliberately done, it's not random. You get people. So the neat thing about our speaker today is how much he loves all of you, internationals. He spoke one time and he fell in love with all of you. I want to tell you a little bit about his. One thing that's a little bit strange, some of the students are telling me, oh Pat, I already have the flyer. No, this is a template. You know what that means? This is a form. And then I fill in the different speakers. So, this is for, pick up the one on your table. You'll see that's not the same speaker as we have today. So no, you don't have that form. You have this form, which is the speaker today. So some people are mixed up on that. They go, well, I came to that. No, we do this every month, all right? Different topics, different things, all leadership, everything on leadership, and people that different one of you have to, really should meet. How many here are in computer science at all, or computer engineering or whatever? Okay, come and see me afterward. I want to give you the longer bio for the next person coming, okay? But this is the way it works. So we go out and look for people. Today, our speaker's going to end with this. He wants to do more for you than just talk in this time. And so he's going to offer a longer course, and it's on the table. And if you're interested at all, fill in the fact that you're interested and rip this off and give it to him or me, okay? And he'll tell you more about that. But we got a great deal for you on that because you need to learn these topics that are going to help you amazingly. Okay, so what has Reid been doing? What did he do in his past life? Okay, you'll see from, you already read his flyer. It talks about how he started a long time ago. It's been over 20 years he's been doing leadership. And he started with like airplanes and stuff with Northeast Airlines, okay? So that's how he started. He was the head of the New York airports on 9/11. All right, so then what happened? Because of where he was and all, he became a special agent at Homeland Security. So he's also been in, he was at the nuclear plant. He's been a leader in so many different fields. He's also got a John Maxwell certification in teaching leadership. So he's very well qualified. He's had over 20 years of leadership experience, and he's going to tell you about that. Do you think you just become a leader automatically? No. Do you just become successful automatically? So I'm excited to have him today to tell you a little bit about how you can become successful. How can you help yourself in that area? Okay, so I'm going to just have him come and speak now. Okay, Reid?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody today? You're all so quiet because you're eating, right? Well, I want to thank Pat for the introduction. So I don't need to tell you, got to stay behind the. So I don't need to tell you any more introduction about myself. Pat pretty much shored it up. So Pat, thank you so much. I want to let you know how excited I am here to talk to you today. What I want to talk to you about is success and how that is achieved. And some of you might be surprised how easy it is. It really is. So my goal today is to take the next 20 minutes and make that the most worthwhile time that you have spent in a long time. So how many of you had your arm twisted to come here? You can raise your hands. How many came because you wanted to come? I say this, keep an open mind on the material. We'll talk about that at the end. But first I want you to, does everybody have a pen and a paper, or do you have access to one? Don't share with anybody, but just write down the reason why you came today. And once you write down the reason why you came, I want you to write down your plan of what your goal is, your desire, your dream. And I'm not talking about lifelong dreams or 5 to 10 year dreams. What is your dream that you're working on right now? How are we doing on that? I'll give you another couple seconds. So what I'm going to try to do is try to add some value to your dreams for today. Now, because of the short time, the slide. Because of the short time that I have with you today, I'm not going to be able to cover all 4 areas. But success is based around 4 main characters. Relationships. How many think relationships are important? Equipping. You know what equipping means? To give somebody the knowledge necessary. That's important too, isn't it? Attitude. Does anybody think attitude is important? And then, of course, leadership. 4 main categories to discuss with success. What I'm going to talk to you today about is spend the next 20 minutes is to talk about attitude. And what is attitude? Anybody want to take a shot at what attitude is? If you're looking at the screen, attitude is an inward feeling that is expressed through someone's behavior. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you this. We are all emotional people. Attitude is when you walk into a room, you can tell the mood of that room, can you not? Whether there's excitement, whether there's energy. You can do the same thing on maybe talking with a friend, whether that person's in a bad mood or a good mood. You generally have a good idea if they're in a bad mood or a good mood. Let me ask you this. What describes happiness to you? Is it a job? Is it education? Is it money? Or is it attitude? Attitude is the primary focus necessary to become successful. You cannot find money, you cannot find a job, you cannot get education without the right attitude. So let's talk about basically the 7 aspects of attitude. Attitude is a choice. Can you still hear me if I stand behind here? So what does that mean, that attitude is a choice? Well, you chose to come here today. You'll choose the attitude that you're using throughout the day. You'll choose to be pleasant with somebody, or you'll choose to be unpleasant. It doesn't just happen. It's something that you choose to do. Attitude is not forced on you. It's the way that you carry yourself. It's how you interact with others. It's whether you're going to be polite or whether you're going to be disgruntled with someone. Attitude is strictly a total aspect of your choice. So when we talk about attitude, the only one that can make yourself happy is yourself. I find a lot of times is people blame situations on other things. So they don't like the car that they drive, they don't like the house that they live in, or they don't like the job that they're involved in. That's not based on somebody else. Attitude is based on yourself. The only one that's going to change that situation is to have the right attitude, and that's a positive attitude. And a positive attitude is going to lead to your success. Attitude is how we approach things in life. So what would that mean? I'm curious right now of how many of you can picture a friend or somebody that you know with a bad attitude. Just raise your hand if you can picture that. So here's a question. What happens when you see that person that has a bad attitude in the grocery store? And my wife does this one all the time. She'll duck around the corner, or she'll hide down the aisle. Or sometimes she will get in the car and just leave. How many of you have done that same thing? That you've hid. You saw somebody and you hid. You didn't want to be seen, so you went down a different aisle. It happens, doesn't it? Now here's the tough question. What if that person saw you? Are you displaying the right attitude? Or are you have a bad attitude that you're showing to others as well? We have to understand that we are totally responsible for our own approach to how we treat other people, and it's based on our attitude. Attitude, our attitude, I'm sorry about that, I can't see where my writing, determines our relationship with people. This is a vital aspect that is overlooked by many, many leaders. Leaders get focused on tasks at hand and deadlines and milestones, and they forget what's the most important aspect. And that's the relationships you establish with people. When you establish the relationship associated with the people that you work around, they start to gain respect for you, and they work for you. Putting other people first and valuing your staff is more important than any of the other aspects associated with leadership. If you look on the screen here, we talk about relationships, and just to show you how important relationships are, these are not my quotes, but when asked what single characteristic is most needed by those in leadership positions, most chief executives replied the ability to work with people. This was a study that was done. Secondly, everybody know who Teddy Roosevelt is? Or their AKA Theodore Roosevelt? He was the 16th? No, he was not the 16th president. He was one of our top presidents. I'm not going to tell you what number he was because I don't know. But he said the most important single ingredient to the formula of success is knowing how to get along with people. Think about that. That's one of our presidents of the United States that has said that. And finally, in actual studies of leadership in American business, this is what most of you are in, is probably business school, some form of educational business. It has been proven that the average executive, that means the head honcho, spends 3/4 of his workday dealing with people. So how important is relationships when it deals with success? If you can't establish a relationship with your staff, who are you going to establish a relationship with? Attitude is the difference between success and failure. Does everybody believe that? There's only a very slight difference between success and failure, and there's only a very slight difference between people. History has shown that the most highly successful people only had a slight difference than the normal in their field. And they call that the principle of slight edge. And what I mean by this is that they continued to work on that attitude to change the situations that they were uncomfortable with. So let me ask you a question. Would you rather be tested in IQ, aptitude, or AQ, which is attitude? And it's it's good to have a high IQ, but I'm going to tell you, more likely than not, if you don't have a high attitude, you're not going to be consistently successful in the long run. Positive attitude is going to increase your likelihood of being successful. Before I talk about the other one, the Yale president had said at one time, "Be kind to your A and B students, for they may return to the university and be good professors." He also said, "Be kind to your C students. One of them may return and build a $2 million science laboratory." Remember, there's very slight difference between failure and success. Attitude will affect the outcome. I'm going to tell you this, most projects either fail or succeed before they are even begun because of attitude. Having the right attitude and being prepared for what is to come is necessary. How many have played sports before? What do coaches normally do before a big game? They motivate and influence you to perform at your best. They don't ridicule you and criticize you on your abilities to be successful, do they? No, because coaches understand the significance and necessary positive approach to being successful as a team is you have to build each and every person up with a positive attitude to be successful. You're never going to be successful if you don't take your foot off the base to get to the next base. That's having the wrong attitude. Having the positive attitude is moving forward in preparation for success. More times than likely, your attitude is going to prepare you for problems that arise. What I'm talking about here is we all deal with troubles, and it's how you deal with those troubles is how you're going to recover. Let's take for a job loss, for instance. Having the wrong attitude when faced with a job loss can be significant and severe to you recovering to get another job. And why is that? Well, when you have the wrong attitude, you're downtrodden. You're beating yourself up. A positive attitude that is turned into success is one that takes on action. When you have a clear mind, you have more of a chance of having a positive attitude towards thinking, towards creating new adventures for yourself. You're going to take more risks associated with that and reach out to others. You're going to contact others so that you will have a better chance of success. If you have a negative attitude and you walk into an interview, what's going to happen with the individual that is interviewing you? He's not going to be very susceptible to hiring you because he sees that your attitude is more of a negative aspect. Maintaining a positive attitude regardless of the situation, is going to change your outcome. And you're going to be surprised at the success that you do have. I want to share a story with you and kind of put more emphasis on what a positive attitude does with problems. There were two salesmen that were dropped off on an island. And upon arrival, the first salesman was in shock and recognized that not one of the people that lived on the island had shoes. He immediately telegrammed his office and said, "I will be home tomorrow. No one here has shoes." The second salesman, upon arrival on the island, recognized the same thing and was thrilled. He also immediately telegrammed his office and said, "Send 10,000 more pairs of shoes. Nobody has any." Can you see the difference in the attitude and the amount of success that you can have? Positive attitude is going to create actions for you, and you're going to be much more successful than you are if you're going to have a closed mind towards negative behavior and I can't do it. I can't do it does not exist when you have a positive attitude. So let's take a look at some positive attitudes that from individuals that some of you may know that have failed. Everybody know who Albert Einstein is? Well, I don't know if you knew this, but he was known as a genius during his day. He didn't speak until he was 4 years old. His elementary teacher considered him lazy. Yet he is the man that came up with the theory of relativity, well, many of us still don't understand. Ben Franklin. Does everybody know who Ben Franklin is? He was one of our founding fathers of the United States who dropped out of school at 10 because his family couldn't afford his education. Think about that. Yet, what did he do? He invented the bifocal and the lightning rod. Thomas Edison, another name that we all know, he may hold the record for most failures, and it's plus 10,000 failures before he ever became successful with the light bulb. Just think about that, how many times that he had to persevere through failure and probably negative behavior. But he didn't. He kept a positive approach to it. Michael Jordan is considered one of the NBA's greatest players of all time, yet he was cut from his high school basketball team. He wasn't good enough to make his high school basketball team. He continued to pursue and is considered one of the NBA's greatest. And then we have Walt Disney, who is my absolute favorite. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because he was not creative enough. In fact, his Mickey Mouse character was rejected because it actually frightened women. Had Walt Disney listened to other people and kept telling him that he was a failure, what would we not have today? It's amazing how these 5 individuals overcame their obstacles. I put this up here to show you that it's possible. When you're struggling through life, and life has a lot of struggles, I will tell you that. And life is not fair. But you have to understand it's your attitude that's going to change that positive behavior, and things are going to look up. These 5 gentlemen had the same things that you were going through, and they persevered through it. Finally, attitude changes the perspective of our outcome. And what does that mean? A negative attitude is going to provide you with a clouded mind. You're not going to be able to think straight. You're going to be a yes person. You're going to go with the flow. If these are the rules, and they can't be changed. A positive attitude is going to give you a whole different perspective. It's going to allow you to think clearly. These are the people that I want in my organization, what I call the why people. Why are we doing it this way? Why can't we do it that way? Those people are vital in an organization. And if you don't have a positive attitude to presenting this type, you're never going to be successful. You need to share your ideas. Just following the routine is not how we make change. We get stuck in a groove because we're afraid to say something or we don't think we're smart enough. I've had the best changes in my organization by people that thought that they weren't smart enough. And we made those changes, and that saved us millions of dollars. Don't ever be afraid to be creative and think positively. But if you have a negative attitude towards yourself and that you can't do it, you're not going to be able to think positively. You're not going to be able to think clearly. And a positive attitude is going to give you a clear action on the next steps, on what you need to do. Does that make sense? So, in summary, nothing happens overnight. It's a process. It takes time to understand to do that. You have to reflect on where your life is and what you want out of your life. So as Pat said earlier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a work seminar. And if these types of things interest you, this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is 20 to 25 minutes of a direction on one aspect, which is attitude, of which you'll learn more. But these are the first steps to take that are necessary to be successful. And so what we're doing is we're offering a 4-week seminar, which you have on your desk. If you're interested in this to make a change, you can tear that off and either hand it to Pat or to myself, and we can sign you up for some of the classes. If we have too many, then we can start another one. Please don't think that if we'll limit it to one class. So if this sounds like something that that you're interested in, go ahead and tear off that sheet of paper, and we'd love to have you aboard. I want to thank you for sitting here for the last 20 minutes. It has been my pleasure. I hope you did get some value out of what I provided. And I hope you take the next steps to whatever your dreams are. Thank you so much.
Wait a minute. I want to, I hear this, but I've been with you guys for so long. I want to show you something about attitude, okay? I'm going to play somebody a role right now, and he's going to be talking to me, and I'm going to be from I'm going to say a country, okay? I'm making it up, guys. But I've heard enough from you guys that I want to show you the difference between a positive and a negative attitude, and how a negative attitude can just turn us off, okay? So he's interviewing me. He's going to ask me, well, what's your dreams when you go home? You're going back to your country. And in this case, I might be a female. Maybe I'm really pretending to be a male. Let's just see, okay? All right, so we'll just say to you that I'm going to pick the Middle East. I'm from the Middle East, and you're going to ask me, how's it going at school?
Hi, Pat. How are you?
I'm good.
And how are things going at school? I understand that you're going home to the Middle East. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm going back there, and there's no hope back there.
Well, Pat, why do you say that? You shouldn't feel that way.
Well, how do you understand me? You're an American. You can't understand how awful it is in my country. You don't understand anything.
Maybe so, but what I can tell you right now is that if you change your approach to that, people may take you differently and more seriously.
You know what? Americans are interesting. They have all these ideas, but they just don't work. And you know what? All your stuff, it doesn't work in my country. All right.
Well, that's the first fallacy.
All right, but that's how I've actually had these conversations. Go ahead. Do it again. Now we're going to do it different.
Hi, Pat. How are you?
I'm okay.
Well, that's great. I understand that you're going back home for vacation to the Middle East. Is that correct?
Well, that's my home. I thought I could stay here, but it doesn't look too good. It's a challenge.
Challenges are an opportunity to change, so I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I want to make positive change in my country. I want it to be different. I've been thinking about that.
Well, that is the first step, and that's excellent that you have been thinking about that. What I think you might need is to think about it even more and actually take action on that.
Wow, what would you say to that?
I think that's great.
Okay. All right. So that you see what I mean? One is open. Sometimes I meet people from day one, they're shut. Okay? And you know what it does to me? I'm going to move on to some other international that's open because I figure they're already settled. They think they're a failure. They think their country's failed. You know, it's not. America wasn't always like this. Okay? Some of the women from the Middle East might wonder, well, you know, I wish I had more. America, we had to do a lot to get to where we were. And, you know, it doesn't just happen, guys. And so I believe you're all here for a reason. You know what I believe? I believe that this is, you know, I'm Christian, so I can say this. I believe God has you here in America to make things different. I really do. That you're more than getting a big job and getting a lot of money, which is good. You have an opportunity to make positive change all over from these countries you came from. You're bright. You're the brightest in the world. You got here not by a chance, okay? You got here for a reason. And I want you to utilize it. That's why I want to help you to be the best you can be at what you're doing, okay? I've been a nurse for years. I was the best nurse. I'm not going to lie. Why be a junkie nurse? You don't want that. So when I was a professor, I was a good professor. Now I'm here to help you, okay? And so I want to help you. So that's why I do these seminars. That's why you're here. Okay.
And I think there's some questions on the table. So, but does anybody have any questions for me before you sit down at the? Yes, sir.
Chief from Brazil. Thank you for your I would like to, if you can, give a sample of 9/11. Give a sample of attitude on that time.
Shock.
Question?
Is it Jared? G. He asked the question of what type of attitude was in the situation during the September 11th attacks. Is that correct?
Yeah, of your experience.
Okay, more about my experience. I don't have enough time to explain that, so I'll put that as real summary. That situation still brings back solid memory of a real difficult situation. It was, for one thing, it was a tremendous shock. We never anticipated something like that, and it was difficult to watch. But after the chaos and the calamity, the initial chaos and calamity ended quite quickly. That is what a lot of people don't understand. It was the organization and the law enforcement at JFK in New York City was unbelievably quick and swift. And to me, that was a surprise because we had never practiced that before. It was a situation that was totally a shock, and we didn't do much practice prior to September 11th on incidents like that. Within 30 minutes, the New York City area was shut down, tied down. Within the whole corridor, the entire aviation industry was grounded. The last airplane after that event occurred landed, I think, 45 minutes later. And I was in the tower watching the bips on the screen as the last one landed. And you have to understand that that's never been done before, not only in this country, but in the world, where they shut down the whole U.S. aviation fleet. Every single airplane on its way out and on its way in was prevented and was forced to land within 45 minutes. That's I'm not sure how many flights that is, but you have to think about that. That's probably about 25,000 airplanes that were in the air at that specific time. It's unheard of. And our country came together on that day. I don't know how else to put it more clearly, but for a long time, our country has been solid around one thing, and it's really, although September 11th was a terrible tragedy, it molded this country together more significantly than any other event ever has. I don't know if that answers your question. I'd love to talk longer on that, but there's a lot of things that were involved with that. Any other questions? Okay.